There should be sound now. You guys hearing anything or no? Oh, awesome, 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 awesome. I'm so sorry about that, guys. I swear to God, I signed on to the channel. In fact, let me just pull up another screen so we can look at some stuff exactly why we're here. Um, I pulled up my YouTube channel. Check this out, by the way, guys. Look what we got going on in the ocean, and I want to compare that to what we saw yesterday. This was yesterday, okay? I showed you guys this yesterday. We had that 80% chance of formation here. Now check this out. We have a second 40% chance of cyclone formation coming right off the west coast of Africa. Disturbance number 3 is at 40% chance of cyclone formation. We obviously have Hurricane Dorian, which is down to now 145 miles an hour. Very good news. It's finally beginning to make that northern hook as we were expecting. I just didn't know exactly when it would happen, whether it would be after that big island of the Bahamas, which is totally being decimated right now. It's so sad. And then we have our disturbance in the Gulf, which might play a part in Dorian. Now, once Dorian begins to ride up the coast and now putting the Outer Banks of California in a very, very unique situation. Not to mention that east coast of Florida, you will be feeling tropical storm force winds, if not stronger. Any teeter-totter to the west will put a good 20-mile-an-hour difference on the coast of Florida. That includes storm surge. So for those of you that were saying that I said that this thing would not turn north. I don't know where you guys got that from. I never said that once, that this thing would not turn north. I gave you all possible reasons of why it may go through Florida or why it would go north, and that was due to the spaghetti plots, as you can see, which have changed since. And even with what we see now, this green one right here, as of last night, was shooting straight through the middle of Florida into the Gulf. So that's the one I was watching. And now that one even shows still a possible landfall in Florida before hooking out into the ocean. So for those of you saying that I said that this thing would plow into Florida, you're completely wrong. You can go back and watch that 3-hour live stream. I never once said that. So I appreciate the comments, but that is not what I said. As of right now, these are the current spaghetti plots. We are dealing with a Category 4 hurricane in Dorian. We are still waiting for this storm to move into the warm waters in between the end of the Bahamas and the beginning of Florida, which could potentially make this thing stronger. And I'm going to show you that here with some of these COD charts. So we can see Dorian down here in the bottom clearly made a northern movement over the main island of the Bahamas here. And I'll get you a little bit closer. Let's get closer here. And that's what we wanted. We needed this thing to stop in its tracks to allow the Bermuda Atlantic pressure in the ocean to pull back and allow a high pressure system to move over the United States. And that's why this thing is basically stopped dead in its tracks. That's not good for the people of the Bahamas because we have a major hurricane just sitting on top of them, totally destroying everything they've ever known or seen. In fact, I have a video I pulled up, and I apologize for the me being all over the place right now, but that was very frustrating trying to find out exactly why that happened. In fact, let me get the chat pulled up on the laptop here. There we go. So I can start reading some of these comments. All right, it's absolutely mauling the Bahamas. Yes, it is, Norway. Dude, this thing is... Whew. There's not much of the Bahamas left right now, and it's sad. It's very, very sad. Fear FX, I hope you enjoyed that comment, because that was your last. When Dorian took Thursday for Jacksonville, very true. Yeah, oh my god, the trolls are everywhere, Norway. They're in here saying that I said this thing would never go north. All I can say to them is go watch the 3-hour video, and never once did I say that this thing would not go north. It's just unbelievable what some people want to say and what some people think they think they hear. So here's our friend right here, Fear 6. We can go let him know what we think. But yeah, he's no longer welcome after that crap. I don't deal with stuff like that. Fear 6. Yeah, he's already blocked. No big deal. Goodbye, sir. Have a nice day. Thank you very much, Meldoc. I appreciate that. Yeah, we spent a lot of time here talking about every single possible scenario, not the fact that this thing was going to shoot through the center of Florida. The reason I pointed that out is because the spaghetti plots provided by the National Hurricane Center showed that. I don't make this stuff up. I'm approving that comment because I agree with you, CTR. And yes, he is a clown, so that's why we get rid of him. Thank you so much, little slug. Now, let's get into some information here. So we can, what I want to show you is I want to show you some footage from Cocoa Beach, Florida right now. And check out some of these waves coming in. Even though we're not, expecting a hurricane to make landfall in this area, check out some of this rough surf. About 4 hours ago, there were some surfers out there, but they're not messing with this right now. Just look in the background there. That is just some eerie-looking stuff. If you can catch my drift there. Very, very eerie. Go live. Perfect. Now we're live. Yes. I love when the tablet matches up with the computer. But, yeah, it's going to go like this a lot, but I just wanted you guys to see these waves coming in. This is, again, Cocoa Beach Pier live. It's a live cam you can watch, and those waves are thrashing. So just because this storm is still out by the Bahamas, it is certainly going to cause a storm surge in Florida. We might be seeing 4 to 5 feet in some areas, maybe even 7 feet in other areas based on what I saw. Let's check out Ventus Sky, rather, which hasn't been exactly accurate. Now, the northern movement is certainly happening. We can see that. I showed you this right here. In fact, let's get in as close as we possibly can, and we'll back it up here. So as of last night, this is about where we were. In fact, actually, the eye of the hurricane was about right here, making its way to the main island of the Bahamas. But just imagine being on this island right now. In fact, there was 2 reporters from the National Hurricane Center that lost all communication with home base. So they were surrounded by water, and we're talking not just a foot of water, but feet of water, like 4 and 5 feet of water. They could not leave the area. They lost power. They were running off battery, and then finally one of them called in and was able to touch base with headquarters, and they both seem to be okay as of right now. But guys, just look at the eye of this hurricane. Anything around this circle right here, we're talking 130 mile an hour winds. This will destroy anything in its path, and I can't even imagine what's going on in this area. That's why I'm trying to find videos that I'm allowed to play for you guys without the copyright issues. But we can clearly see how it basically stopped right here. It was going about 1 mile an hour, and then right there, you see it just lift off the top of the island. So that's going to hopefully spare some major damage to the west part of this island. And hopefully the farther north this goes and the quicker north it goes, that is going to limit the amount of rain bands that are shooting into Florida. Now, we do have some straight line winds coming down this way, because you got to understand these storms spin in a counterclockwise direction, which means they're pulling air and or moisture from one end whipping it around into the ocean, and then plowing it back in this way. So the storm surge area right now would be around here. In fact, I have Google Earth pulled up for us so we could see. I do have some video from Vero Beach from a friend of Caroline and I's that hopefully I can get up and play. But just to give you an idea, if the eye of the hurricane is right here and we're whipping this way, you're going to see a storm surge coming in through Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie, but then down by Boynton Beach, Boca Raton, Coral Springs, you're going to see storms being pulled out from the west to the east. And that's due to the hurricane spinning in a counterclockwise motion. So that's what I wanted to explain to you. That's what Craig Setzer from Miami was explaining earlier today. I watched his show a little while ago before I got here and tried figuring out this live stream thing, which really had me frustrated. I didn't think I was going to be able to go live. Why does he keep saying California? I don't know. I slip up sometimes. Sorry about that. North Carolina, sorry. I talk about California and I talk about North Carolina a lot. If you went live on YouTube often, you would make the same mistakes, trust me. It's very hard to remember every state, every country, every town. It happens, but we're looking at the state of Florida, so I'm sure you guys know what I mean. Mass destruction working. Do you want me to just send mine instead? Norway tracking, what's not working, bud? Yep. And that's one thing I did say it would do. I did say it would pull a Sandy. And actually someone quoted me saying, "Oh, you just said it was going to pull a Sandy. What is that supposed to mean?" And I explained. I said it could take a dramatic north hook up into the east coast of Florida and put the Carolinas at risk. But some people don't listen to that. They listen to what they want to hear. I know all about Mike Morales, trust me. And he knows about me. That's good. That is a smart idea to make a Discord server. Being stationary could do one of two things. It depends. Again, the Bahama water is very, very warm. The longer it sits without any sort of land interaction, yes, it absolutely could regain strength. But the more north it moves, the less strength we're going to see. It's going to lower in miles per hour because as you move north, the water gets colder. That's why when you're dealing with Category 5 storms, if I were to back out here, and we remember watching Irma and Maria come across here, by the time they were here, they were Category 5 storms. So the momentum of these storms also carries them farther than they usually go when they are formed here, for example, or formed here, or formed in the South Caribbean. Now, because this storm was pinned down by a high pressure in the Bermuda Atlantic, and a high pressure in the United States, this thing was just moving west, 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 and then boom, hit the Bahamas, and kind of just, it's now sitting here, and then it finally, those last couple frames, like I showed you, have it tracking finally north. So you can see that right here, the last frames. Right here, you could see the eye wall is still over the main line, the mainland of the Bahamas. And then right there, we see it pull off to the north. And that's what we want to see. But then again, now watch this. If you watch very closely, it pulls off. And you can see the edge of the eye hurricane, the edge of the hurricane is off the Bahamas. But then watch the last frame. Boom, it comes back south again. So all these little wibble wobbles that come and go. Nicole Barngover, thank you so much. Very, very much appreciate that. Unnecessary, but thank you so much. Really means a lot to us. Really, really, really does. Thank you very much to Grill Master for what you just said there. But North Maine is supposed to see its first frost. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised about that. We are in the month of September. We've seen snow in September. We've seen snow in August. So it's there's a lot of things that are going to change. We're going to have a long winter ahead of us, but right now this is the main issue right now. And yeah, so besides the fact that we're trying to figure out exactly where these tropical storm force winds are going to hit Florida, Vero Beach, very windy. As you saw, Cocoa Beach was very, very windy. And that's really what we have as of right now. The only thing we can do right now, it's basically a waiting game. And you could just see, I can actually slow it down a little bit more. There we go. That might help a little bit to give you an idea of what this thing did to this area. And here we go. This is a good view of how I want to explain the pressures. See this system right here? This system that's coming over Canada is making its way across the Great Lakes, and it's going to come down into this area. We have a 60% chance of cyclone formation in the Gulf of Mexico. So once Dorian hopefully continues to move north like this and then follow that typical pattern we see where it launches back out into the Atlantic towards Ireland and the UK, you could very well see this 60% chance of cyclone formation getting pulled by Dorian in through the panhandle of Florida. Now, again, I'm not guaranteeing that for those of you that want to come on here and say, oh, you just said that this was going to happen. No, I'm showing you different outcomes, and I'm going to make that clear as often as I possibly can. But those of you that know me, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You could see Dorian is causing moisture situations all over the place, including Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina is getting a lot of straight line winds right now. And as this thing gets closer and closer, that's when Georgia is going to start really. I would not be surprised to see Georgia put out state of emergency, including South Carolina, because now once the storm starts moving up, the pressures are going to change as well. It's not just like the pressures all of a sudden pulled back and it's going to stay that way. It may come back to the west. It may keep going out to the east. But then again, we may see another high pressure in the U.S. come over top of Dorian and pin it back down south. That's why I can't stress this enough. Everyone's seeing that this thing is moving north, but then when you watch frame number 200, it actually dips back south right there. See that? You see how we got that wobble in the eye? And then it lifts right off that island and then boom, comes right back down. So we just don't know yet. The storm is moving at about 1 mile per hour. In fact, let's get tropical tidbits open here so we can... what do we got? Current storms, and we'll see the exact 150 knots. So we are still very much in a strong hurricane. 938 millibars in pressure. That actually dropped since the last couple hours, which means the storm actually did get stronger in the last couple hours. So that answers your question right there. And I'm just going to check out the chat real quick. Tabs, WTF. What do you mean, Joe, loser? Tabs, as in computer tabs? Bonnie, thank you so much. What will we see on the West Coast? I'm assuming you mean Florida there, Cooper W? Skunks Bio, yes, I know Palm Beach very well. I lived there for a significant amount of time. If it keeps, Ken, to answer your question, if it keeps moving north, I do not believe it will return to a Category 5 either, because every time as these storms move north, we're moving into cooler water. And to sustain Category 5 hurricanes, we do need warm water. So let's see what Tropical Tidbits is showing right now. As of right now, it's got 952 pressure, even though the other part of Tropical Tidbits has it at 938 pressure. So two different parts of the same website are showing two different millibars in pressure. So That can get confusing to people that don't really know what they're looking at, but that's a good thing for 2S Norway tracking. He knows a lot about that stuff. But as you can see here, guys, those purples are touching parts of Florida, and anything in the red and within the yellow is tropical storm force winds. So just because the eye of the hurricane is not going to hit Florida, or at least not as of right now, that does not mean that these winds are not going to do some sort of damage. And again, the main part of these storms is the storm surge when it's not when it does not come down to a direct hit. If we were talking about a direct hit, we're talking massive damage, we're talking casualties, we're talking everything in the book that is bad, everything that has happened to the Bahamas, and it pretty much the only video and source of information about the Bahamas that we have right now is what people are able to get to us. That is how bad it is there. We can't even get cell phone service. Some videos are coming through, some satellite feeds. And I also want to point out this has actually been named a hurricane in the Pacific Ocean. So we do have a hurricane in the Pacific as we speak right now. There's actually 2 invests in the Pacific Ocean. So we could be having a very long September, guys. And I said that for a little while, being that it's been a slow season so far, and that's because we had an El Nino situation which kept out a lot of our storms, and that is finally dissipated. And with minimal shear wind, you can just only assume that we're going to start seeing these storms rolling through like a conveyor belt. I'm not guaranteeing anything, but that's exactly what it's showing. And now I want to show you something else here as far as the strength of this storm. They have not updated it yet as far as Dorian, but I want you to see here that Labor Day in 1935 hit 892 millibars. That is very low. But at the same time, Labor Day, as of right now, is tied with Dorian as the strongest hurricane to ever hit land. By land, I mean the Bahamas. So Dorian will be maybe not on this list as far as barometric pressure, but it will be on the list of strongest hurricanes ever to hit land in the Atlantic Ocean. So this is a record-breaking hurricane, regardless of whether or not it hit Florida or hits Florida or comes up and strikes the Outer Banks. So it's a once again, 2017 was record broken every other week, and then 2018, it took them 6 months to realize Michael was a Category 6, and now we are dealing with the month of September, where our first major hurricane is in with the first 2 days of September, coming in from the 28th through the rest of the month of August into September. So. Yeah, so by the way, happy Labor Day, everybody. So apparently those initial forecasts saying a landfall on Labor Day were not correct. The spaghetti plot's changed many times since then, but just watching this storm and the eye wall, there's nothing changing about it. I mean, it did have a little bit of that land interaction. It did slow it down a little bit. And as long as this thing stays right in this area, it will continue to weaken. If we have any more of a western movement into this area, the temperature of this water alone in this 60 miles from the tip of this island to the end of Florida, that will strengthen this hurricane if it does settle in that area. It does not look like it's going to do so unless that last frame right there you're seeing where it drops down right here, if this thing starts going down past the Bahamas again, that pressure could easily push it back to the west. So the possibility is still very much there. Northern Gentleman, thank you so much, my friend. How are you, by the way? Jacksonville in the house. How are you? Jacksonville, you're way up here. You're probably getting some rain bands from this thing right now, being that we got a counterclockwise spin going on. I'm not sure about any sort of landfall. That's why I wanted to bring up Tropical Tidbits, because we get to see what they believe the storm is going to do. In fact, let's check out the legacy first. which has been hit or miss lately. It's showing a 945, which is a little bit closer to that 938 we saw with the stats that Tropical Tidbits has. But as we move forward here, you could see how it kind of, those first couple frames right there, it's kind of just paused in place. And then it drops to 936, guys. This thing, so there's no telling whether this thing is going to get stronger or not. And then look at that. As it moves in a northern direction, we drop down to 930. So it's very confusing to have to explain to people that the lower the barometric pressure, the stronger the storm is, but yet they're saying the wind speed has dropped while the barometric pressure is lowering, which is almost, it doesn't make sense. And then you look here. Look at what the legacy shows, 928. That's incredible. That's an incredible amount of pressure within this hurricane where it's supposed to be weakening as it moves north. And now we can see those purple bands touching Georgia, South Carolina. And if this thing stays on this path, we could be seeing a landfall in the Outer Banks. As of right now, we see a landfall in the Outer Banks. And again, these are not my charts. These are charts that are available to anybody out there in the public. I'm not saying that this is going to make landfall. I'm saying that this is what we are looking at right now. Every 8 hours this changes. That's why I try to do at least the live stream a day to wrap up all this information and give you guys what has changed and what could possibly happen. I do not make predictions on this channel. So anyone that wants to say I do, you got to start watching the videos before you type. So Jacksonville, Florida, my home. Would I move home? So no, it's my home. Okay. I don't know why that wasn't shown. That's a good comment there. Super Nat is here. I just approved that comment, by the way. Hashtag West Palm. Yes, ma'am. I believe that. A snail can outrun Dorian. At this point, yes, it can. Right now, it can. This thing is just sitting there. And it's not, I mean, I'm not trying to make light of this situation there. It's very hard to do so when you know that these poor islands right here are just getting completely decimated. It's horrible. It's so horrible. Here, I'll play this again for you really quick. This is part of some of the Bahama Islands. I'm not playing sound right now besides my voice, but just look at what this thing did. Danville Boost, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bad weather freak, that's actually not true. Some of the spaghetti plots have it pointing right into Central Florida. So until those things are pulled off and into the ocean, I'm not taking any chances. And I'm not saying that it will not hit Florida. And I'm not saying it will hit Florida. But those spaghetti plots definitely go inland, including that green one. So if you go on spaghettymodels.com or spaghettiplots.com, you will clearly see that there are spaghetti plots that take this thing right into Florida. And that's what I mean. You guys gotta you gotta look at the information before you make guesses like that, because that's how people put out misinformation and you scare people. You don't want to do that. But this is what this storm is capable of doing and what it did. So it's just unbelievable. And this wasn't even the worst of the Bahamas that got hit. The worst of the Bahamas that got hit is still getting hit. And those are the areas that they're trying to actually get video and communications back so we can actually talk to these people and try to get people out there to help them. So, yeah, with that said, let's continue on here. As you can see here, we have Hurricane Juliet in the Pacific Ocean, and then obviously Dorian right here. They're not showing the invest just quite yet, but you can see right here we are now at 80% chance of cyclone formation. Chances are this thing will become a tropical depression, more than likely. I'm not sure about this because of the tight space it's in and because of Dorian's effect. This, I believe, will curl out into the ocean and kind of dissipate, but again, you never know. Again, I'm not predicting this stuff. I'm not telling you What's going to happen? I'm showing you what we have as available information as of right now. So this storm, if this thing does form, at first it showed it moving up this way, but you can start seeing that counterclockwise motion, and then you see these clouds that are going right along that warm water belt that we call it, right towards the Leeward Islands. So if this thing does tighten up, I believe we will see this thing start heading in a western direction, right towards the Leeward Islands, just like Dorian did. That's why That's why it's my opinion that September is going to be a very busy month, and we are day 2 into September. This Harper as a hurricane right into thin air. Not sure what you mean there. Sorry about that if I'm misreading that. I know everybody wants answers and it's very hard. Invest 91L. There we go. There's a name for it. In fact, I think I have the other one pulled up. So we got, yeah, so there's 2 of these. There's a 40% chance right behind the 80% chance. Now it's at 90. Never mind. Now we're at 90% chance of cyclone formation. No joke, by the end of tonight, we may have a tropical storm in the Atlantic Ocean once again. But the direction it's pointing is leading me to believe that that's the direction it wants to go. We got the cone of uncertainty here. With this one here, though, this one's flatlining, which means that it is being influenced by pressure a little more. Again, the stronger these storms are, the less influence the pressure has on them, but it does have influence. So you can see how a 40% chance storm that is just starting to form and gain those, and have all those thunderstorms stick together. You could see how they are influenced more by pressure, and it's more flat. And then we have this 90% chance of formation with much stronger storms that are actually battling that pressure and is making its way into the middle of the ocean. So that's a good example right there of how pressures can and sometimes cannot influence certain strengths of storms. And then we got this guy right here where you could see, boom, pressure wants to push it up. And that is more than likely the path that Dorian's going to follow. It's going to come up this way, and then as of right now, possibly clip the Outer Banks and then right out into the ocean. So get a lot of info out there as we can, my friends, as much as we possibly can. I live 2 miles from Intercoastal Boca Raton. I'm hoping for the best. Yes, I am hoping for the best for you as well, my friend. Absolutely. Yeah, that's why Mark, I don't make guesses. I don't predict things. I just show you exactly what we are being offered as far as information. This is straight from the National Hurricane Center, and this is all we have to bank on. And those of us that make predictions, you're getting into some very dangerous territory there, because you don't want to put people in a position where they feel like they have to run out and spend all their money and make all these preparations just to find out that nothing's going to happen, which is why I don't do that, which is why I have to sometimes correct people when they call me out saying that I've made a prediction that this thing's going to slam into Florida when I never once said that. So hopefully that's the last time I'll have to say that. Harvey was stationary for 4 days. Yes, it was. And that's actually Harvey went into Texas, came back out, and then back into Texas. That's worst case scenario. Exactly. Yes, you give an educated guess. I'm speaking to Papa Watson there. You give your educated guess, you give your opinion, but you never guarantee anything. It's just not. When it comes to weather, you just can't do it. It's not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to show people what is possible, what the different outcomes could be, all sorts of things like that. And this still very much is a storm that certain people might want to think about moving a little bit inland. I know with Hurricane Irma, the entire thought process was to get everyone from the east to the west. But now that we've already crossed that threshold and Dorian's up here, I highly doubt that we have to worry about this storm coming back down and underneath Florida and then hitting the west. So at least we know this is an East Coast storm rather than having every mainstream media outlet saying that it's going to go up the East Coast and then all of a sudden, boom, goes right underneath Florida and then comes up and hits Naples. So that's what we don't want. Is it possible to still make landfall in Georgia or South Carolina? It is possible, yes. I mean, if you look right here at this spaghetti plot, this purple one right here, it doesn't show it hitting Georgia, but South Carolina, yes, it shows a possible landfall. But also, at the same time, this green spaghetti plot here also shows a possible landfall in Florida. So that's what I'm talking about. These are not my spaghetti plots. I didn't make these. These are things that they put out for us to look at. So yes, the chances are still there for an impact on Florida. Is it better off the coast or could it intensify? It depends on the temperature of the water. The fact that it's being stationary in a very, very warm area is not a good thing because those are the traits that will allow a hurricane to grow. But because it's interacting with the Bahamas, unfortunately, it's keeping it almost at bay, and the pressures around it are keeping it stationary. Now, once those pressures release, we might see a dramatic north turn. But then again, at the same time, the longer it sits there, the more time we have for a Bermuda Atlantic pressure to regain a push to the west or another system to come over top of Dorian, keeping it pinned down. So you can't, it's almost an hour to hour basis where you have to watch this to determine where it's going to go. Even the Weather Channel has no idea where this thing is going to go yet. They give you some basic ideas, and you know how those channels work. They are all about ratings. They need to keep you on your toes, and that's why I do this channel, because I like to show everyone exactly what's going on. They will not sit there and play this for 2 hours long because they want you to think that it could be still hitting Florida. They want you to start thinking about the Carolinas. They want you to start thinking about a state of emergency in Georgia. Basically, they just want all attention on the hurricane. And in some places, they're not even talking about this hurricane, which is just blowing my mind when the Bahamas is one of the biggest vacation spots that U.S. citizens go to. Hopefully, Ken. Hopefully, the wind shear does break it down. That's what we want. We do not want this thing to get bigger. All I know is that I'm seeing this thing rolling around, and it looks like it dipped back south again. But again, I know eventually it's going to take that hook and it's going to start heading in that northern direction. But we still have spaghetti plots that are pointing this thing into Florida. We have spaghetti plots that bring it into extremely close to Georgia, and then even a plot that puts it right into South Carolina as a landfall. But hopefully by that time, the speed of the storm will be down far enough to where it's not a devastating situation. Again, storm surge is the most important thing and factor at this point right now, unless we have something crazy happen. See, look at that wobble right there. Those are two brand new frames. I want you to watch this right here. I'm going to hit stop real quick. I'm going to put this right here. Watch this wobble. Watch how fast it goes up and then jerks back down and then jerks back up again. It's incredible. Put it right there. Up, down. Actually, let me start sooner. There we go. It's lifting off. See how it gives that wobble? Up, down, down. See how it's almost like buoying up and down right on top of the Bahamas right there. And then if you look very closely, it almost looks like it moves in an eastern direction right at the end there. It almost looks like it takes a little shift to the east. Watch. It's amazing. It's amazing what these things can do. It's absolutely unbelievable. Yeah, that's a huge eye. That is a huge eye. In fact, some parts of the Bahamas, like I said last night, when that eye was over them, you could look up into the sky and see blue sky and the sun and everything. And then when that other part of the eye comes, it's just complete devastation once again. Yes, last frame is very telling. In fact, let's just stop on that frame right now. Right there. And if we back up a little bit, you could just see how it's starting to do that wobble. And it could wobble in any direction. Again, it's all about the outside pressures. See how it makes that eastern movement right there? It goes a little east and then north, but then it comes right back down south again. So it's kind of like just, that's a refresh there. It's kind of just like skimming that top part of the Bahama Islands right now. And I'm still waiting to get some video in. I had someone tell me that they were going to send me some video of what's going on in this exact part of the island. So hopefully I get to share that with you guys very soon. Jeffrey Lane, that's very unfortunate, my man. What airport are you stuck in? Is Mid-State South Carolina at risk? Okay, again, I don't like getting into too much into the future, but as far as our model runs that we have, this is what it's looking like right here. To answer, who was I answering there? Yeah, oh, Dizzy, YouTube. It's very possible. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's why I don't want to say what direction it's going to go in because people just, they jump all over you. If God forbid you are wrong about one thing, that's all they're going to focus on. They're not going to focus on any of the other information that you post. No, Midland, South Carolina is not at risk. Midland, South Carolina. That's Midland, South Carolina right there. They could be dealing with tropical force winds, maybe even higher. So yeah, they are in the wind field, absolutely. As far as storm surge, no, because you're inland. But as far as wind and the rain bands being in a counterclockwise motion, you may see some pretty decent storms from that. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to read these comments as much as I can. I don't have a moderator at the moment. Karen O, how are you? I didn't even get to say hi to you yet. Glad to see you here. How about the other invests in the Atlantic? Yes, we were talking about those leaky NYC. In fact, here you go. I'll show you them right now. Check these out. When was the last time we saw something like this? 2017 rings a bell. Irma, Maria, Katia, Jose, all at the same time. And that's what I'm saying. We're lining up right now for a solid month of conveyor belt hurricanes. It's incredible how things can change so very quickly. And again, I want you guys to look at these spaghetti plots, and I want you to tell me that this plot does not show this thing coming close to Florida. Because I know I'm not blind. And I know you guys aren't either. And if you are, then more power to you because you are a special type of person. 140 miles an hour, it weakened a little more. That's a good thing, yes. That's because it's stationary, it's over land, and it's got that slight northern hook to it. All we don't want to see is this thing move west anymore. And that's why I keep watching this green spaghetti plot right here. And then my second concern is this purple one, which brings it into South Carolina as a possible landfall to the northeast part of South Carolina. And then continuing through North Carolina, southeast North Carolina. I meant northeast South Carolina. And then the Outer Banks, of course. So if you live in the Outer Banks, it's time to start thinking about this if you have not been already. How bad is St. Augustine, Florida going to get hit? Very hard to say because I don't know if this thing is going to hit Florida yet. All I know is that we have these spaghetti plots that are showing that we could be seeing another western movement. That would be due to a Bermuda Atlantic pressure. High pressures move hurricanes. Hurricanes do not move on their own unless they are completely uninfluenced by pressures. Let's say there was no high pressure around a hurricane that has already been formed, the thing would just go straight north. That's where they want to move. It's the way they spin. It's the spin of the Earth. If you're into that type of thing, but northern hemisphere counterclockwise spinning hurricanes go north. Southern hemisphere clockwise hurricanes shoot south. That's what they want to do. They want to go right to the poles, even though the poles are moving. Can this hit New Jersey, New York, PA? Hard to say. I mean, you can see this spaghetti plot here. It brings it pretty close to the end of New Jersey right there in Massachusetts. Or not New Jersey, rather, closer to Massachusetts. But we have a little ways before we have to really, really start being concerned about that. Right now, the main concern is what's going to happen in the next about 8 hours when it comes to Florida and then South Carolina, hopefully Georgia. This thing will stay as is, but you guys got to remember the storm itself. Just because the eye wall is not making landfall does not mean you're not going to get tropical storm force winds and storm surge along the entire coast of the east southeast here. That's what I try to drill into people's heads. You do not need landfall for a hurricane to do damage where you live. Please talk about the topographic of Bahamas and what effects Dorian may have on the island. Thank you. Yes, I will get to that. To Brian, my bad, oops. True Helper, thank you, my man. How are you? Bahamas is flatland. That's why it didn't weaken two categories after landfall. Yeah, no, the Bahamas took the biggest hit they've ever taken. This was the strongest storm to ever hit the Bahamas. That's a fact. This is really concerning to me. How this thing could be at how this possibly could be at 932 millibars this far up north, next to South Carolina and North Carolina. That's something that makes you wonder, like how that's even possible when it's supposed to weaken as it goes north. And then look at this number, 928. Guys, that would bring that 928 millibars could bring a storm to a category 5 again. That's what these numbers mean. The lower the number, the more powerful the storm is. That is a fact. We'll keep this screen on for a little bit so we can get exactly what we are seeing. This is live. This is exactly what's going on right now. So anything you see with this eye wall, this is going to be the determining factor. And if you see any movement, in fact, there was a west movement, there was an east movement, there was a northern movement, and then there was a southern movement, all within the last hour. Which is why those spaghetti plots still have some possibly touching Florida. And I will not change that thought until I see those spaghetti plots completely off of Florida. Yes, Norway, I'll check that out now. How long till it hits land? Jeffrey Lane, your guess is as good as mine, man. Right now it's hitting land. It's already hit land. It's made landfall as the strongest hurricane to ever hit the Bahamas. So this has already made one landfall in the Atlantic Ocean. Now, the news reports rarely match the charts that we have at our disposal. And it's sad because everything should be on point. Everyone should have the same information, especially when we're dealing with a situation like this. This is deadly now, okay? We have loss of life in the Bahamas. And, you know, when it comes to things like that, I feel like that should be number one news. But not these days, unfortunately. Do you see the storm getting stronger, weakening, or staying the same strength? Very hard to say. That's why I'm watching the eye wall right now. There are spaghetti plots that have this thing coming back west, which would put it in warmer water, which could possibly strengthen it. But as of right now, our hope is that it's going to continue to have a northern track and weaken as it moves up. Again, remember, by the time we got hit with Hurricane Sandy, it was a Category 2? Was Sandy a Category 2 at landfall? If someone can remind me. This loop is 200 frames and about 18 hours long, I believe. So you can see the time down here. In fact, I'll tell you right now how many hours this thing lasts. So right now it's at 7:21. So 1 hour, 2 hours, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 7, about 16 hours of data this loop plays. So this has been the last 16 hours up until current time right now as we speak. So frame 200 is exactly where this storm is right now. Boom, right there. This is where our storm is. Oh my God! TNTV. I saw that video with her roof missing, and she's like just begging for help. She's like, "Someone, please come help us." I couldn't watch it. It's horrible, because many of these people do not have the ability to just get on an airplane and fly away. Okay, it's not like that. I mean, it was hard enough to get the population of the east coast of Florida to move to the west, let alone get people off islands in the Bahamas that, whether it comes to financial issues or just the fact that there's like 2 or 3 airports, with only a certain amount of flights. I mean, what are you going to do? Take a boat in the middle of a hurricane? It's just sad. That's why we have even news anchors stuck there right now, and they were waiting hours just to hear their voices to make sure they were still alive. And luckily, yes, they were able to get in touch with their home base. Thank God. Yes, that's very true, Ken, and that's what we're hoping for if it stays in this area. But you got to understand, this is all very warm water right here. If we get up into this area, much cooler. The closer it stays to the coast, the warmer the water is. And that's why I keep coming back to the spaghetti plots. And that's why I can't stress this enough. You have plots that show this thing moving west back into Florida. So when people tell me that, oh, there's no way this is hitting Florida, that's your opinion. There's plenty of information saying that it's very possible. That's why I don't say one way or the other. And then when you look at the atmospheric conditions going on that are producing all these storms, I mean, nobody can predict what's going to happen. And it looks like we're about 940 millibars in pressure. And then you go to another part of the site. Ooh, we got another view of this. Let's check this out real quick. Yeah, we're starting to see nightfall near Cocoa Beach. Waves are churning. And this is just from, what should we call it? These are just from rain bands. This isn't even the hurricane. Hurricane's way out in the ocean, a good 100 miles away still. And these waves are all due to those rain bands and the wind fields pushing the water into the coast of Cocoa Beach. So we'll keep this one out of here for now, just for copyright reasons. Once again, we got Dorian here in the Atlantic, and we have another hurricane named Juliet in the Pacific. And then not to mention, we have 4 or 5 different invests going on in the Atlantic as we speak, including Dorian. Close up on North Carolina. Alrighty, let's see. Come on. We can do it. We can do it. Let's find it. I think this might be the closest we can get with at least this chart. And it doesn't seem to be changing, so this is what I'll do. I'll zoom in. And I'll move the... So this is the expectations as of right now for North Carolina. So you could see the wind field is very much within North Carolina itself. Tropical force winds more than halfway through North Carolina, according to this chart. That may change. Ken, in my opinion, I think we may see at least one more. Whether that hits land or not, I don't know. But just the lineup that we're seeing right now, it's very possible we're going to see one of those hit Category 5 coming off Africa. And hopefully it just doesn't pull a 2017, if you know what I'm saying. Okay, so that was about a Category 1 then, Grill Master. Thank you for that info. And that alone was devastating, so imagine what a 3 or a 4 or a 5 is going to do. Yeah, Norway, I believe so too. There will be maybe one or two more pretty significant storms in the Atlantic Ocean, if not more. Like I said, I knew September was going to be a very busy month. Great Fisher, you're not the only one who said that. We said that a bunch of times last night during the live stream. The second that thing went north, it was going to weaken. But then again, look at the spaghetti plots. What are you seeing? Still, possibility of a western turn into Florida. Kaliko 45, thank you, my friend. It's nice to hear that sometimes. Yes, land interaction definitely weakens hurricanes, but it's like a double-edged sword. You got a land interaction weakening it, but you're in some of the warmest waters in the world. So it's like it's kind of like up, it's down, it's up, it's down. Yeah, usually when a storm weakens or starts moving into cooler water, the wind field expands. The winds may get weaker, and it looks like a bigger hurricane, but the winds stemming from the center of that hurricane do get weaker. But again, we're still in a spot with this hurricane where any movement to the west or even a southern movement, anything east or north will weaken the hurricane absolutely. But if we see a western movement or if we see it settle in between the end of the main island of the Bahamas and Florida, that could gain strength, and that's what this green spaghetti plot is showing. And also this purple spaghetti plot keeps it in warm water as well, which may maintain a category 3. But as it gets up into this area, more than likely a 2. This green plot here, after a possible touch on Florida, it would immediately lower down in speed as it is about a few hundred miles off the coast in much cooler water. The closer we are to the coast, the chances of the hurricane staying strong or even strengthening is higher. So that's why it's very important that these next 24 hours that we're watching this from where it is right now. And there you have it. I mean, look at that. I mean, I didn't make this chart up. This is charts that are provided to us of what they think is going to happen. And yes, we have that northern movement, but what are we seeing? We're watching the pressure drop. We're staying within that 930, and then look, 928. By the time we're parallel with Georgia, we have a hurricane with 928 millibars of pressure. That's lower than what it is right now. Look at it. Right now, the storm's at 945 millibars, and they are basically saying the millibars are going to drop. And usually when that happens, a hurricane gets stronger. So it's like, it makes people very confused sometimes. And that's why the Weather Channel tends to avoid talking about stuff like that. They kind of just give you an idea of where it is. They tell you to go buy supplies, prepare this, that, fill up your gas tanks. And then sometimes it's not. It's better to be safe than sorry, of course, in all ways, but I just don't have it in me to tell people to go spend money because that's got to be your local radio station. That's got to be you trusting your gut and knowing when it's time to take a trip somewhere away from this type of storm. Look at the wind shear map. It's all over the Carolinas. The storm won't strengthen. Ken, I'm not disagreeing with you, bud. I understand. I know all about wind shear. I know all about the wind fields. In fact, why don't you make a video about it and show us? Haha, Karen. Yes, the storm was weaker last night and now it's stronger today. That is very true. And that's what I'm trying to explain to people, that they think because they see a weakening in the storm that all of a sudden, okay, done deal. It's going to weaken and weaken and weaken. That's not what happened. It weakened last night and then got strong again. It changes. Angel of God, thank you, my friend. Good to see you here. Clip, that's very possible. I mean, we're at their disposal. I mean, we can only use charts that we have available to us to make our own assumptions and to keep people informed. But if they know something we didn't, then that's information that we're just not privy to. People can make guesses all they want, but that's why I don't do that. You notice people that make predictions and all these guesses and everything, when that doesn't happen, you don't usually see them for a while after that. Cheers to you too, Karen. Cheers to you too. Oh man, I forgot I had coffee. Even though I spilt it on myself before. Should be drinking tea at this time of night, 8:14. You're very welcome, my friend. Yep, that's all the news does, is make guesses. They tell you to watch here, and then they tell you to watch there. To be exposed. Thank you. I appreciate that, man. I just figured it's nice to have a face to go with who you're talking to. A lot of people have been asking, face reveal, face reveal. No big deal. I'm just a person. Preevstar. Man, I'm getting a lot of UK love today. You guys are great. Thank you so much. What cat is it now? I believe a 3, if we're not mistaken. No? Let's check it out. We'll hit some refresh here. And let's find out what we're dealing with now. And once again, look at it. I'm not making this up. Spaghetti plot going right into Florida. we'll go to current storms. All right, so we're at maximum wind speeds of 125 knots, gusts of 150. So, for those of you that want to ever do a transfer or ever a conversion, it's very easy to do. You would basically type in 125 KT to MPH. Those would be our sustained winds, 143 miles an hour. And then it says 150 as gusts. That's 172. So the gusts of this storm are well within Category 5 range. And that's, again, not me making that up. That is what you just saw on the computer with the information given by these websites. And I just plugged in the information for you, and you could see with your own eyes, 150 knots is 172 miles per hour. And that is well above 156, which is Category 5 strength. True Helper, all good, buddy. I'm not worried about trolls. I handled one before, and we got a good group in here, so they usually they don't stay long. But I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you being here. Clip supplies, never a waste, and you're not in the clear yet. Pray you don't need them. Exactly, Stephanie. I agree with you very much there. So is Florida landfall not happening now? I want to say no. I do. I want to say no. There will not be a Florida landfall. But again, I'll show it once again. You have to look at the spaghetti plots. Look right here. See this plot right here? That plot shows a landfall in mid-Florida. Now, will that change in the next hour? It very well might. Most of these plots have this thing missing Florida. But that does not mean that Florida will not be affected by this. This storm is very big. It's already got a storm surge coming through Cocoa Beach. Massive waves. Vero Beach, same thing. Very windy. Lots of crashing waves. We're talking 4 to 5 foot storm surge, even though this thing is well off Florida's coast as of right now. Now, this purple one right here, you definitely want to focus on because that takes this thing right into South Carolina and then North Carolina. And then by the time it comes out, it's going to be coming out right over the Outer Banks if these spaghetti plots stay true, which is why I don't make predictions. It wasn't just people, Ichio's trip. It was the National Hurricane Center saying that this thing would go right through Florida. And day after day, the plots changed. Yes, it can, boss man. That's what I'm saying. Nobody knows. Nobody can predict where hurricanes are going to go. You can make an educated guess based on the atmospheric conditions around it. But when people are trying to tell me that they know exactly where this hurricane is going to go, I laugh because it's just not, that's not how it works. Should be... Actually, they probably just came out around 8, and they haven't changed much. They're the exact same since 5 o'clock. Nothing's changed. Except for a little bit of the wind speed. And we can see here, we constantly have our recon airplanes flying through this storm, giving us our updated readings. We have a mission in progress as we speak. So right now there is an airplane flying through this storm, which should give us some good info. Dark Dominic, I love it. Great comment, man. Great comment. Now, anything after 4 to 5 days, you do not want to put a lot of emphasis on, especially when it comes to hurricanes. Hurricanes, you can't even guarantee what's going to happen within 8 hours. That's why it's a very, very dangerous subject to take on, and that's why a lot of people get a lot of flack when they cover weather. But, I'm growing thick skin, and I'm starting to not really care about the people that want to point out every little mistake I make rather than listen to the info and watch what we're doing. So that's why I love you guys. I've had such a great group of subs over the years, and that's all that matters to me. Let's get back to that. What is that here? Nah, we'll leave that. Leave that. This is what I want to keep watching. This is very important. This part right here. This chart right here is going to be how we know where this thing's going. And if you guys notice that last frame there, that eye wall just dipped south. Tell me it didn't. EC My Land Girl, thank you so much. Yes, it did dip down, Thomas YouTube Gamer. Thank you. Thank you for verifying that because I know I'm not blind. And I also know there's a lot of people that told me that this thing will not go south. It's not going to happen. It's not possible. But it just did. Rated R NYPD. You just reminded me of New York. Oh, look at that. South. Moved south. Anything is possible in this world. Yes, it is, my friend. Yes, it is. Carolinas are not out of the woods yet. It's going to be a couple days of the people of Carolinas under a lot of pressure. And I told you, that's why I'm here, guys. I'm not here to tell you where this thing's going to go. I'm here to show you what it's doing live so we know how to prepare, what areas might get hit, things of that nature. That's the best I can do. When it comes to winter storms and those storms we had coming through the west coast of the U.S. this past year, that's a different story. I mean, it's much easier to read where those storms are going to go. But when it comes to hurricanes, it's all about what's going on around them. It's not the hurricane itself. Hurricanes themselves just want to shoot north, but the pressures are what keep them from shooting north. And that's clearly what's keeping this hurricane right where it is right now. Over warm water, half interacting with land, half not. I mean, even just this little bit of time that it lifted off, the eye wall lifted off this part of the island right there, just that alone could have upped this thing 5 miles per hour. And then as it comes back down south, yes, the land interaction may lower that. But that is why they're keeping that spaghetti plot that would put it right into Florida. Not right into Florida, but a definite landfall. Not a full eye landfall, but a curl in and then a curl back out. And then that's the plot that shows it shooting out into the Atlantic after hitting Florida and then nothing else. And then that plot that shows it coming up right to the Carolinas. So, yes, Long Island is now in the cone of uncertainty. This thing's going to ride right up the East Coast, all the way up. No, Smoke and Cloak, I'm not going to admit that because I don't know. And neither do you. It gets there, Fran. The more exhausting part is when you put yourself out there and people try to tell you that you have no clue what you're talking about, but yet they don't have a video on their channel, they don't have a face, they don't have a name, but yet here we are watching this hurricane and it's doing exactly what we were talking about it doing. So, you know what? I brush that stuff aside now. These last couple months, I've been hacked 3 times. You know what? I'm finally understanding what it's like to be a YouTube creator, especially when it comes to a topic like this where people take it very seriously. And if you get one little thing wrong, they're going to let you know about it. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine. As long as one person gets helped, that's all I care about. Thank you, Kendall. Mark Gosser, I'm not going anywhere, bud, until YouTube makes me go. Yes, there's many parts of Florida feeling this right now. Vero Beach, Cocoa Beach, very rough surf right now. You can see with your own eyes, guys. These wind bands are straight up hitting Florida and causing big storms. These are not small storms going on in Florida right now. Florida is absolutely feeling the wrath of this hurricane, even though the hurricane is still a good 70 miles away. At least the eye of it is 70 miles away. But the rain bands are not. The rain bands are touching Florida. And yeah, there's not a lot of people on these beaches right now. And I recommend you stay away from those beaches for the time being. Yeah, Calico 45. That's true, and that's why I believe they still have that spaghetti plot, that green one that has it going into Florida because they're just making sure they're covering their tracks that just in case a pressure of some sort comes across, especially this 60% chance of cyclone formation in the Gulf here. If any of that starts rolling over top, that's going to keep this thing down even longer. And we're still in warm water. Once this thing gets up to about right here, you can expect some significant weakening. But, I mean, this thing's rolling in all sorts of directions. We saw it go west, we saw it go east, north, south, and now we just watched it go south again. So, you see, there it is. It went north and then came back south. Cypress Chambers, thank you for being here, man. Thank you just for watching. That's that's all I ask. That keeps me happy. You guys watching, everything else is just a bonus. Thank you so much. Christine Daly, jeez Louise, thank you. You did not have to do that. Thank you so much. Thomas YouTube, that's what I try to do, man. I'm trying to keep everyone updated with accurate info. Accurate. As in, not making predictions, not telling you to go buy water and food and supplies because this thing's going to plow into Florida. I don't know where anyone got that from. Those words never came out of my mouth. So, I appreciate that a lot. Mr. O, thank you, my man. Thank you, thank you. I don't know about the best just yet, but I'm certainly gonna try. I'm gonna try. We're gonna change the weather world together. Yeah, Christine, thank you so much. That was very generous of you. Thank you very much. No, I don't. There's no reason in fear mongering. I mean, fear monger for what? Like, what's the point of getting people all riled up just so they can come back and just I wouldn't be able to sleep at night knowing that I'm just giving out information to get views or to gain attention like many other channels do. It's pointless. It's wrong. It's not right. If you have any more morality inside of you, it's just how could you live with yourself by trying to make people scared and displace them when they don't need to be displaced? Like all you have to do is go online and do a little bit of research and you could see, certain things are going to happen and certain things are not going to happen. But all I know right now is that eye wall is coming south, and I don't know if it's due to a wobble. It could be a wobble, which means that we could be seeing some weakening after the next update. But that eye wall certainly came back down south. That's a fact. Yeah, when Irma was first posted, the track on my video showed Irma shooting across the Atlantic Ocean straight up to New York. And that's exactly what I posted. I didn't say it would hit New York. I said that will Hurricane Irma hit New York on 9/11. And when it didn't, everybody and their mother was like, "Oh, you were wrong. You were wrong." But that's what you got to deal with. I appreciate that, Gaston. I appreciate that a lot. Yeah, those are the pressures, Anonymous RC. It's fighting pressures right now, and we there could be a shear wind we're dealing with that's causing a wobble. Usually, when you see a wobble in a hurricane, that means it's losing its structure, which is a good thing, and that could be due to the interaction with the land of the Bahamas. It could be due to that shear wind. It could be due to it being ready to have maybe a possible eye wall replacement cycle, which would, if complete, would make the storm strong again, and that would make sense to me because it shows a much lower barometric pressure once it reaches this area. So if it does go through an eye wall replacement cycle and then move up into here and complete it, we could be looking at a very strong hurricane up in this area. But then again, if it cannot complete the eye wall replacement cycle, that is a hurricane killer. It draws in dry air, which you can almost kind of see in a way. That's very interesting. This last line here, in fact, I'll stop it and I'll show you. See this right here? This is dry air being pulled into the hurricane. So you notice how it goes from like a donut shape like that, like a very, very dense, dark donut shape. And then as you move forward in time, you kind of get these little breaks of yellow inside, and that's drier air being pulled in. And you usually look for those when you're looking for an eye wall replacement cycle, which usually, if it's interacting with land at that time, it does tend to lower the speed of hurricanes. So hopefully that's what's going on right now, including a shear wind event. That's awesome, Chris. That is awesome. I learned a lot myself last year. Over the last 2 years, I've learned more than I had I spent 8 years in school. Anything's possible. Yeah, it certainly is. Anytime, hello. That's why I'm here. I'm not here to be fake. I'm here to show you guys what's going on. And that's it, nothing more. Ooh, that was a loud truck. It's possible. Well, I mean, Wilmington, if it does continue on this track, so you guys got to understand, the spaghetti plots are anything after I want to say 15 to 20 hours needs to really be thought about before making moves. I know that's not a big window. I know that's not a lot of time to make a decision. But with a hurricane like this, where it was supposed to be heading north already, and it's still just sitting over the main island of the Bahamas, it's still moving in a slight westward direction. It's moving north. It's moving south. It's starting to wobble a little bit. So I think we're really getting close to a point where this thing's going to make a decision of where exactly the next or the first, or should I say second, landfall could possibly be if we do see one. First landfall already happened, biggest one to ever hit the Bahamas. This is the strongest hurricane since Labor Day to hit an Atlantic Ocean island or land in the Atlantic Ocean. And Labor Day held that record for many, many, many years. Many years. That storm was in 1935. Eyewall replacement cycle is when dry air is pulled into a hurricane, and if completed undisturbed, could actually make the hurricane a lot stronger. It's basically the eye wall gets so interrupted, which it looks like it's doing now. When you start seeing that wobble, it means it's losing some of its structure. And now, if this thing were to move off into, even the waters right here are warm enough, but if it were sitting right here and went through an eye wall replacement cycle, we would see probably a jump in about 10 to 15 miles per hour in wind speed. And we've seen it happen. It happened with Irma. It happened with Maria. It went through an eye wall replacement cycle on its way to the Leeward Islands, even before hitting Puerto Rico. And Irma went through an eye wall replacement cycle before making it to the area of South Florida and going over Puerto Rico and Haiti and Dominican Republic from 2017. Honestly, CC, I can't answer that question. I honestly don't know if this thing is going to make that turn into Florida like the spaghetti plot shows, or if it's gonna, more than likely, what I think is gonna happen is it's gonna follow those spaghetti plots up the coast. It's gonna have a lot of wind and storm surge along a lot of the southeast states on the east side, and hopefully it stays that way. If this thing moves west, it's going to be a problem. It's certainly going to be a problem. But it seems to me like this thing's wobbling back and forth, showing a little bit of instability, and that's in a way a good thing. It means that we may be seeing this thing finishing its devastating wind speeds over the Bahamas and could just kind of track this way. If we can get this thing to track up in this direction, we're going to have some more time to really figure out what's next. But right now, it is just doing whatever it wants at the moment. It's good if it slows down in a cool environment. Now, if it slows down over land, that means it's going to weaken because land interaction is one of the main hurricane killers. Obviously, we saw plots where this thing was supposed to hit Florida, ride right up the middle, and then immediately drop to Category 1. But if this thing were sitting, like I explained, if it were sitting right here, it would be growing. If it was sitting right here away from land, it would be growing. But because it's kind of bouncing up and down off this the Bahama Islands here, chances are it's actually making it a little less strong, which is why they have a recon plane in there now. We're going to get some new info, and hopefully those MPHs are down. But what's concerning to me is what they expect to happen after it makes that northern movement towards the north end, the northeast end of Georgia, and then to the Carolinas, where the pressure just seems to drop about 20 millibars out of nowhere, where it should be actually rising. Because the farther north we go, the cooler the water. So it kind of breaks a rule right there. Stephanie, thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm right, I promise. I'll hold you to it, Calic 45. Don't worry, buddy. Oh, Laurinette, no problem. Anytime. That's the plan. Yeah, I don't. I know sometimes these live streams get a little bit long, and not a lot of people are going to sit through a 2 hour live stream that aren't already involved in it. So, yes, it's, I like to do videos and make updates and stuff like that. But when we're talking about something that's so like sensitive and can change in any time, it's like you can make a video, post it, and by the time the video is posted, things have already changed. So it's like null and void. It's not like another, that's why weather's one of the hardest things to cover on YouTube. It's constantly changing, and God forbid you're wrong, you're going to hear about it, even if it's 2 months later. All right, I'm going to leave this screen on 1 sec. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break, and I'll be right back with you guys, okay? Keep an eye on that eye. Watch that eye wall, guys. That thing is making its own moves right now. One two 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 p.m. I saw that, by the way. That was pretty funny. Had to acknowledge that one. Funny dude. I'll be right back, guys. Some guy just sitting in the middle of the road blasting music outside my window. All right, let's see where we're at. Are planes still flying into the eye to gather info? Yes, they are, Ed Love. They are currently doing it as we speak. As we speak, they are. You know what? Let's see if we could find a actual. I'm gonna search for. You know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna search for an article, and just letting you guys know. After last night, it took about 7 hours. Robin Jones, thank you so much. Don't live in Georgia anymore, but I used to watch your videos religiously during the hurricane season. God bless. God bless you right back. Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. You guys are amazing people. Which is why it's great. Besides True Helper and Caroline coming in sometimes, there's not much issues with this channel. You get your knucklehead sometimes, but besides that, it's like I couldn't ask for a better group of people to do this stuff with. But let's just type in Dorian update. And let's just check and see without going too far in depth and getting any copyright issues. I mean, check this out. I mean, how could you not be concerned about the East Coast? I mean, you know, you talk about a Category 5 storm, and unless it's hitting land, people are like, oh, don't worry about it, it's nothing. That's not how it works. Hurricane Dorian updates. 5 dead in the Bahamas as storm continues its assault. 30 minutes ago, C blah blah. Hurricane Dorian slams into the Bahamas. Live updates. Those guys are smart. Stationary hurricane Dorian keeps hammering Bahamas, and that's what we're dealing with right now. Is this thing stationary? That's the problem, and we don't. Wow, what's that? Hurricane Dorian, 5 dead and 13,000 houses severely damaged. That number's definitely going up, especially with this thing sitting right there. Yeah, I don't. Death count is a whole nother situation. I don't like getting into that stuff too much, only because you know, these algorithms now, you say that word, you try to, you know, even if you're, you know, doing it in a respectful manner, it's like, boom, they see that word and automatically you got to go through a whole process just to get your video posted. But how long we've been going? If anyone can throw that out there at me real quick. How long we've been on this stream? The Bahamas are absolutely the worst hit. It has been stalling over the Bahamas for barely a day, and a Category 4 to 5 barely moving away. Yes, this is my face. Well, this is my my online face. I'll take the mask off and show you what I really look like. Even if the storm doesn't hit Florida, it will be remembered for years and forever change the landscape of the Bahamas. Oh, yeah. The Bahamas is going through right now what Puerto Rico went through with Maria. No doubt about it. What's your major out of the background hobby? Formerly educated. Formerly educated by my brother. He is a Navy meteorologist. My father, he also did a lot of meteorology work in college. He was one of the first ones to set up what's the word? It's slipping my mind. Storm satellites. Back in the 70s, he was installing those on colleges, and he worked with a guy. I'll get more detail on that. In fact, I'll have him write some stuff down for me. But yeah, I come from a family of weather, military background family, all sorts of things like that. I was a late bloomer when it comes to forecasting weather. I was into being a stunt double and working with Jackass and stuff like that, and that type of thing. I still have a channel with all that stuff on it. It's about 15 years old now. I have one of the oldest YouTube channels in existence, actually. Oh yeah, and you're gonna feel those rain bands. That's for sure, and that's what I'm talking about. People think that just because the eye of this storm is not gonna hit Florida or may not hit Florida, that you're out of the woods. It's not. That's not how these things work. Hurricanes are called hurricanes for a reason. They're not called storms. Chris. Oh, it's too funny, man. Let me unplug this so I can stand it up and look at it straight on. I'm sick of looking down. My neck's killing me. Should hit me Thursday into Friday. Christopher, let's make sure that we know that for sure, because we still have about, what are we looking at on screen here? Thursday. Right now it's Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So between Wednesday and Thursday, we have a long gap that this thing shoots. This thing starts speeding up quick towards South Carolina and the North Carolina border, and then from Thursday at 1 p.m. till Friday at 1 p.m., 24 hours, it just, boom, it just shoots off. So hopefully it's off the coast far enough to where Virginia is not going to get affected that much. But then again, that is not, that's not my job. I'm not going to say that that's what's going to happen. I'm going to come here on a daily basis and show you what every update is showing. This way we are all on the same page. And yes, we have a plane flying through en route right now. And this is mission number 35. This is the 35th time they have entered this storm to get readings. Imagine being one of those pilots. I would love to be one of those pilots. Absolutely love it. Jay Grace, thank you for all the posts. I will check them out ASAP, my friend. Is it starting to move west? Let's look, because I mentioned it possibly moving west, and a lot of people did not like that. So if it is moving west, then guess what? It's moving west. There's that northern movement we talked about. In fact, let's stop it, and we'll go back and forth right here. So we're going backwards now, forwards. It makes that northern jump right there, about 10 miles off the coast of the northern part of the Bahama Island. And then it wobbles back down. It touches again, which is just devastating. These are the highest winds right here that extend about 35 to 40 miles out. Devastating winds. Those are those 135 mile, 145 mile an hour winds, just ripping apart the coast of the Bahamas. And then it honestly looks like, besides this piece of dry, you see this little strip right here? That's dry air being moved into it, and I believe that's because of the land interaction. Now, if this thing moves away from the land, that's going to be a different story. We're going to have a whole nother set of data to look at tomorrow. And that's why you cannot rely on these spaghetti plots until it's almost there. It's so hard. It's so hard to really forecast these things. Besides watching them and giving people educated guesses, and the last thing you want to do is guarantee people anything whatsoever. Hold on one sec. Sorry, had to yell down the stairs real quick. What do we got? Florida coming in. Is currently under state of emergency. Yes, they are. And for good reason. Dorian is still Cat 4. Yep. Sanja Cell anytime, my friend. Ma! Meatloaf! Yeah, Chris, it's very possible. And that's why, I don't like arguing with people over it. But this thing very much has the potential to make a move that would make it stronger. Yes, that is not out of the realm of possibility. Will it happen? I don't know. But we are in an area right now where we are in some of the warmest waters in the world. And anything can happen. It's all about what's going to happen around this storm in the next 24 hours. And I'm telling you, by this time tomorrow, we will know whether or not this thing's going to hit Florida. We will know for sure. The last time I saw a stall like this was Hurricane Jose up in the Northeast. It sat there for 2 weeks in the same exact spot, almost like it was just being waited. It was like being used as like a backup for something. It sat there for 2 full weeks, maybe even over 14 days. That's also very true. Sometimes these storms are big that the pressures don't influence them as much as expected, and that's why I was trying to explain earlier with this chart. You could see how this disturbance of 40%, it comes out flat, and then we have this 80% chance, or this 90% chance of cyclone formation moving in this direction. That's because it's actually stronger than the pressure holding it down. This system right here is not strong enough yet to actually make that hook up into the ocean because it's being influenced by a Bermuda high pressure. Now, if this thing were to jump to 60, 70, and then 80, you might see that start curling up because it's strong enough to. So just because there are pressures out there, that does not always mean that they keep hurricanes at bay. The stronger the hurricane, the more momentum it has, the more it's going to break rules and push right through high pressure situations. And then this one right here, you could see is moving in the same direction as they think Dorian is going to do, and that's going to be a whoop, and that's going to swing out into the ocean. But not before doing what it's going to do here first in these warm waters. So we just don't know yet. Yeah, it got stronger. It got stronger. I mean, people saw it drop down 5 miles per hour, and they're just like, oh, thank God, now we don't have anything to worry about. But now it's back up 10 miles an hour stronger than it was 4 hours ago. So this thing is going to be it's going to be one we talk about for a long time. In fact, I'm trying to find... I don't know if Wikipedia is even going to show a chart like this. They used to. I used to be able to type this in and it would just show me. Wikipedia is being a pain right now. Has a hurricane ever hit Ireland? Good question. You know, and if it was a hurricane that would hit Ireland, it would certainly be something that started in the Atlantic and rolled up the coast because usually, unless it would cut through the middle of the ocean, usually Ireland and the UK get the remnants of our big storms because they ride up the East Coast and then they follow Nova Scotia, and then Nova Scotia almost points them right to Ireland and the UK. And we've seen some big, big, wide storms hit that area, but not so much hurricanes. Like no eye walls, just very, very big, widespread wind fields, especially in the winter. Sometimes in the winter, some of the biggest storms I've ever seen heading towards Ireland and the UK were in the winter. I'm looking at this thing now, and I'm seeing a shift to the east. Look at that. This thing's unbelievable. Yeah, tell me about it. This thing needs to turn already. Like, just get away from the Bahamas. Leave these people alone. It's just, I mean, you got to understand, guys, it's not just the eye wall. Look where my mouse is. These are hurricane force winds. Like, picture the eye double the size. This area, all this area here is getting completely devastated by this hurricane right now, and there's nothing we can do about it. They have no communication, they have no power, they have no way of. It's like you can't fly helicopters into here. We can't get airplanes in here to get them supplies. They are just they're sitting ducks, and it's just like I can't get it out of my mind. I can't stop thinking about it. It's just the worst case scenario for the Bahamas, and it's the worst thing to ever hit them. Worst ever. By a long shot, too. Labor Day of 1935 was nothing compared to what this hurricane did to the Bahamas. It's just... Ed Love, you very well could be right. Yeah, Dorian dropped to literally 1 mile per hour, which means it basically wasn't moving. Like, how do you even measure a hurricane moving at 1 mile an hour? How can you even know that it's 1 mile an hour? Like, I could blow air out of my mouth faster than 1 mile an hour. Oh, yeah, Chris. We all know September is going to be a surprise. Ventu Sky. You guys want to see Ventu? Let's check it out. Alrighty, so Ventu Sky. In fact, I got so many tabs open. Let me hit stop on some of these just so hit stop there. We'll hit stop there, and I want to come back to this chart before we end the live stream, which will be in a couple minutes, unfortunately. But I want to show you guys what is going on around this hurricane that could potentially change a lot of things. So Ventu Sky, someone mentioned. Let's check it out and see what they have to say. So Monday the 2nd. So right now, this is where Dorian is. We could see we were watching the eye wall. It's right here. We got these wind gusts. We are at a wind gust setting right now. We're not at wind speed. We're at wind gusts. And we got 95 coming underneath and in. And then the higher of the wind speeds, as I drop this mouse down here, I saw 120 in there. Now picture this. Picture these little islands right here with wind gusts of 120 miles an hour passing through them at a constant basis while you have a hurricane just sitting here not moving. So constant 120-mile-an-hour wind gusts just battering wherever it is that you live in the Bahamas. And then we get down here as it pulls into this little cove here. What's that name there? Lucana or Luciana, however you want to pronounce it. You guys can make fun of me over that one if you want to. But bottom line is we're having constant wind gusts of 91 miles per hour being pulled right into this part of the Bahamas right now. We got Dorian's eye just north of the island itself. And then we'll back out and I'll show you what Ventus Sky is showing over the next couple days. Here is tomorrow. And you can see here that by tomorrow, Palm Beach or Palm Bay, Port St. Lucie, you guys will be well within tropical storm force winds, if not Category 1 force gusts. Right now it's showing about 81 mile per hour gusts that you will be feeling in Florida. So once again, just because the eye wall does not hit your state does not mean you are not going to be affected. And then watch this jump from the 3rd to the 4th. Just in a 24-hour period, we have this thing sitting here. In one day it moves this far, and then one day later, check that out. Watch, look how fast this thing just jets up towards the border of Georgia here. And again, wind gusts 92 miles an hour, 94, and that is an inflow. So again, it does not need to be the eye that comes inland to cause issues. We need to remember that. Yeah, it would be very rare to see this thing move south. So hopefully that's not what happens, but I'm not taking any chances. If it does move south, it would be for a brief amount of time. But any movement south would lead me to believe that it would make it stronger. So we want northern movement, and that's and we want it to move away from the coast. We want northern movement, and we want this thing out here doing what it's doing now, just out here somewhere. Let the ocean handle this one, not us. Yes, sir, Chris. Let's go. All right, so we got the 5th. By the 5th, it's showing, all right, a significant weakening. Wind gusts of 88 miles per hour coming into or pulling from Wilmington into Jacksonville. That would be North Carolina. And then by the 6th, check that out, Chris. I'll change it by hour, actually. We'll move to 8 o'clock. You can see how it's right in Chesapeake Bay by 8 o'clock on Thursday. And then by 11, as we get towards Virginia Beach, you possibly could have upwards of 40 to 50 mile an hour wind gusts coming in from basically the north coming down towards the west. So you're going to have a northwest wind coming in, and then when it gets to Greenville and Jacksonville, that's going to be a southeastern wind going out into the ocean. But again, the eye wall is going to be right here, and it's going to be pulling out air this way and pushing water into the this area of the Outer Banks. I'm sorry, I said Chesapeake Bay. These are the Outer Banks. This is Chesapeake Bay here. Yeah, storm surge. As of right now in Florida, they're expecting a 4 to 7 foot without a landfall. With a landfall would have been about a 15 foot. So I think we're out of the woods as far as that storm surge goes with Florida. But then again, until I see that spaghetti plot gone, I'm not putting anything to chance. What day is that? Okay, the 5th. Yes, that would be Thursday the 5th. They're expecting this thing to be just under Virginia Beach, in North Carolina, right on the coast there, right where all these inlets in. And that sometimes is one of the bigger issues is when you have these water inlets, they get filled, they get flooded, and the surrounding areas around them get flooded. I know there's a lot of population around these inlets here, and yeah, it's like, I mean, if this model is what's scaring me, and it's hard to just assume this is what's going to happen. I mean, even this here, I mean, 42-mile-an-hour wind gusts, and this thing is 200 miles off the coast of the U.S. by a Friday, and we could still be feeling wind by, anywhere from Massachusetts to Long Island. And then as we move up, we're talking Boston, we got Halifax, and then Nova Scotia, and then we're going to watch this thing go right over towards the UK and Ireland. But this thing is not changing size much at all. In fact, from this point to this point, it looks like it gets bigger, which is just, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So let's get back down to current time here. We'll X out of that, back out. So let's check these wind gusts again. Look at some of these guys. Oh, boy. 131, 132. We have underflows of over 100 miles an hour. A 105 miles an hour being pulled underneath the main island of the Bahamas, not counting what's coming into the Bahamas at the same speed, 100 mile an hour wind gusts. Unbelievable. Chesapeake, it's looking like it's going to make that hook out into the ocean before the Chesapeake is going to be affected, but there will be wind. Certainly wind. I'm not sure about the rain situation yet. We may actually have a rain situation as a separate entity as a low-pressure system is moving across the U.S. as we speak, unrelated to the hurricane. Sorry, I'm just reading a message here. Thank you, Brian Karen, for all you do. Beauty by Bridget, anytime. You know that. Anytime. It's hard to say if it's going to eat up a lot of energy because as of right now, all I see is energy in the ocean. I mean, look at this. We basically have another hurricane almost ready to form within the next couple hours. 60% chance of a hurricane forming in the Gulf right now. And then this one I'm not really paying much attention to, but at the same time we need to think about this. This system right here could influence Dorian. So if this thing's moving up in this way and Dorian's moving up in this way, this thing could potentially keep Dorian from coming out into the east. So there's so many different factors at play, and it's just, it's oh man, it's a rough thing to follow. And now we got a hurricane, yep, and it's going to cross that. This is the Pacific Ocean we're talking about now. It's going to cross that 20-degree north threshold, and you can see the second these hurricanes in the Pacific cross that 20-degree north line, they start losing intensity quick. It turns right back into a storm from a hurricane. Anything that stays in between the 15 and 20, chances are they head right towards Hawaii. And we saw that a lot over the last couple of years. So Ed Love, thanks so much. And guys, I hate to do this, but I'm going to be cutting this short in a couple minutes. So if there's anyone that you got anything you got to get off your chest, anything you want to ask really quick, I'll do my best to answer, but I want to make sure this video gets up in time for people to see it that were not able to make it quite yet. No, Verizon, you cannot use my location. Please, do you think it will hit South Carolina hard? Hitting South Carolina hard, I don't. Again, you're asking me to make a guess, and I don't know. All I know is that I have a spaghetti plot here that takes this thing into Florida, and then I have another spaghetti plot that takes this thing into South Carolina, right on the border, bringing it to the northeast edge before entering as a landfall to North Carolina. So, unless that changes, we could expect that. And again, it's not about trying to scare you and make you think that this hurricane's coming for you. For all we know, tomorrow these spaghetti plots could be out here, nowhere near land whatsoever. But until that happens, I'm not letting people forget the fact that this thing is right here. Like, we have a hurricane so close to Florida, we can't just assume that it's not going to hit Florida. Yes, the Flash Cash, I will be live streaming tomorrow. Absolutely. I'll be live streaming until this storm is gone. For low pressure systems in the north, it can bring Dorian. Yeah, Norway, email me. I'm going to be driving, so once I get to my next location, we can sit down and talk for sure. No problem. Is it possible Dorian can stall for a week? I don't know about a week, only because there's a lot of movement going on. There's a lot of storms in the ocean. We got the Gulf situation going on, which seems to want to cross over the Panhandle. So if that does happen, Dorian will move. And pretty much by tomorrow, you're going to see Dorian moving in a direction that is going to either bring a lot of relief to people and maybe not so much to other people, which is why I'm not saying when and where this thing is going to go, because I truly do not know. This is a very unique storm. It's making some unique moves, and it's just something that even the pros, the Weather Channel, Weather Channels and all these big places with all this amazing equipment, they can't even tell you where these storms are going. So it's a waiting game, and right now it's all about the Bahamas. Man, that's just one. Look at that. Do you guys remember that smile from Hurricane Matthew? That's what that reminds me of right there. That half smile, that little smirk with some teeth in it. Do you believe what mainstream is saying, or do you have your own opinion of the track? See, the thing with mainstream media is they are constantly changing their idea of where it's going to go. And they change their idea of the strength. And they change their idea of who should go out and buy water and gas. I mean, you saw it yourself if you're watching the news. They had people lined up at Walmarts in Florida with shopping carts a mile back waiting to just buy a case of water, and there's a chance that this thing might not even hit Florida. So it's like, people pick and choose what they want to believe, but I believe most of those people were doing so based on what they heard on the news, not based on what they went online and researched themselves and saw. And, it's very, very touchy, very, very touchy subject. All right, guys. Well, listen, I love each and every one of you. I'm going to end this thing here now so I can get this up before midnight. Tomorrow, I will be right back here doing another live stream, and we are going to find out where this thing's going. And then we have some other stuff to watch out for. And I have that by 1, 2, 3, and 4. Oh, boy. All right, so our 60% is now 70%. But it looks like this thing wants to head towards Mexico. But if Dorian hooks up and goes this way, you're going to see some of this starting to pull across that way. So, oh, it's going to be a busy week. It's going to be a busy few weeks. It's going to be a busy month. But guess what? We'll be right here to talk about it nonstop. Alicia, thank you so much. You guys are the ones that are the best, because if you guys weren't here, neither would I be. So, thank you so much for being here. I hope I was able to at least help some of you understand a little bit about what's going on and why this is important, why this purple line is important, and why we need to keep an eye on this stuff until it is no longer a threat. Because not only is Dorian a threat, but what's coming after Dorian is going to be a threat too. Because we are in that peak season, and I'm going to show you some charts from Norway Tracking, where he does some very amazing detail work about why these things do what they do, and it really does give you an idea of what to look forward to in the future and why certain things happen. So there is a way we can figure this stuff out. It's just that we are not taught this stuff in school unless you are strictly trying to become a meteorologist, and then people like Norway Tracking takes the time to learn this on his own, which is an incredible thing. And you look at this data and you're just like, wow, like you can actually, make educated guesses about what's going to happen. And that's weather for you guys. Weather will be always the unknown. It will always be the unknown. Partly cloudy or partly sunny. Which one? You pick, because they're the same thing. Anytime, Norway. You deserve it, bud. All right, guys, that's all I got for now. I will talk to you all tomorrow. I hope everyone has a great evening. It's 9:28 right now on the East Coast on Labor Day. I hope everyone had a good Labor Day. Thank God we were not affected too much by this to ruin the holiday. The weekend seemed like it was okay, but until this green thing goes away, until this purple thing goes away, I'm not taking my eyes off of it. So, with that said, we're going to end this here, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Love you all. Thank you so much. And for those of you that contributed, means the world. Absolutely means the world to us. Thank you so much. Guys, you are awesome. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye.